I said, what's that? Who there? Whoa.
During that interim period, you've got ideas swirling around. And I know, because I've interviewed enough founders to know, not always is that first idea you come up with the one that you end up pursuing. And sometimes you have some ideas and you poke holes and then you're like, the market's not big enough or it's not worth pursuing. What were some of those other ideas, and why was the future idea compelling enough for you to go all in for the next 10 years?
That's really funny. Actually, I've heard Keith tell this story that when honestly, the first week, I was an EIR at KV for about a year. The first week I walked in, maybe the first month I walked in, I started swirling around this idea. And just like you said, you have this awareness that, you can't just jump at every idea. You got to spend some time, poke some holes. And so I actually shelved it saying, I don't want to jump at the first thing here. And I'm going to spend some time poking holes in that. And I looked at a bunch of other stuff and I ended up just kept hanging around, and it was something I could not let go. And as I collected more facts, it was like a boulder gaining, velocity. And so I ended up actually coming right back around to this. But I did explore a wide variety of things. And, I had built several companies, was fortunate to have exits and felt like I had amassed some skills at that point. Felt like I could get a team together, move them in the right direction, start to see some of the bigger picture. After Soch, we were acquired by Postmates, had a great experience there as well, seeing some different parts of the problem. And so it felt like I had accrued some skills. And one of the questions that I had was, what is the most productive, positive way for me to use those skills? And that really meant, in a lot of ways, having impact in the cheesiest sense of the word, right? And I felt that I kept gravitating towards companies or ideas that had something to do with, raising the level of education for people, or access to health, or economic empowerment for people. And I felt like those just really were ideas that I gravitated towards. And then, really kind of dovetailing into to how I ended up starting Future. KV as a firm does a lot of work in healthcare. And they invest a lot into clinical healthcare companies and progressive healthcare companies. And this is truly a space I have no background in, right? My wife is a physician and a faculty member at a big research hospital out here in San Francisco, but I don't actually think about those problems day to day. And so I had never really thought about these things. But as we met just brilliant people working on, problems in health, I started to get a broader picture of health in America, something I guess I didn't have a lot of awareness of. And you start to learn things like, I remember hearing at the time, 70% of Americans are obese or overweight. And I was like, there's just absolutely no way that's true. If you take any 10 of us, that's 7 of us are obese or overweight. There's just no way. And it turns out, that was the CDC stat at the time. And so it absolutely was a good picture of where we were. And once you appreciate that that's where we were, it actually becomes these unsurprising logical conclusions that the majority of us live with chronic conditions, that 80% of us will die of one of those chronic conditions. Things like heart disease, hypertension, diabetes definitely will kill the most of us. And all of this is like, let's say terrible and alarming. But I think what really got my attention was not that the state of the state, that quality of life was low in our country and life expectancy was unremarkable in our country, which came as a shock. But the real thing that got my attention was that no matter how many people I talked to, how many papers I read, how many companies I looked at, or so on and so forth, I couldn't find a single person who was predicting that these trends would somehow turn around and improve. Every single person was predicting these will only exacerbate, and that these are monotonically increasing trends. And in fact, today I said 70% of Americans are obese or overweight. Today it's 75, right? And those things just continue to climb. And once you really face that set of problems and you go spend time with people and talk about them, it is so fundamentally physically alarming that I couldn't sleep at night. And I was just thinking about it all the time. And I think what really was interesting to me was there are these 5 things you do on a daily basis, in your day-to-day life that have a big impact on your health and your health outcomes. And those things are, how you move, how you eat, how you sleep, how you deal with stress or mental health, and then whether or not you take your medications. Turns out there's a huge problem with Americans actually adhering to any medications. And so those 5 things, how you move, eat, sleep, how you deal with stress, whether or not you take your meds, are these critical, important inputs into ultimately how long you're going to live and how great those years are going to be. And more interesting, everybody knows that, right? Like typically most people have some awareness of the fact that these things are important and I should walk more, I should eat slightly better. We spend $100 billion a year trying to do those things. And yet we fail miserably. 80% of Americans don't exercise enough or at all. That's a crazy number because enough quote unquote exercise is a pretty moderate bar. And so here we are trying, spending a ton of money, failing at a crazy rate. In that, what we saw was a story of optimism, actually, that year after year, every January, right this time of year usually, everyone picks something up and tries their best, but life is crazy and fails. And then we pick it back up next year and we try again. And looking at that whole picture, what we thought was so strange was that for 99% of Americans, all 5 of those factors are completely unmanaged, meaning every man, every woman is expected societally to figure it out for themselves, to define what does being active enough mean, go seek out solutions yourself, and then hold yourself accountable to do it. That is a societal expectation that you will just do that. And then the same for how you're eating. It is up to us to look up the definition of healthy eating, which if you've ever tried seems to change year by year. And then you're supposed to find recipes on your own and ingredients lists and go shopping and do your meal prep and then deal with stress. We're all supposed to take up meditation practices, I guess, right? And no one's sleeping 8 hours and we're supposed to deal with that. And there's this strange expectation that we're all going to, deal with that at the end of our, entire full lives. And the end result is we do a crappy job of it because we are overwhelmed. And especially today, modern life is inherently very disruptive and busy, right? We take in so much, the volume of information we take in every single day is incomprehensible to someone even 20 years ago. And so the amount of context switching we do, how frequently we change jobs and geographies is very, very different today. And the idea of one fixed daily routine that you will have year after year is a complete fallacy today. And so we thought that gap was interesting, that these things that we do every day are a huge driver, and yet they're completely unmanaged for everybody. And so the question we started our company with was not, why the heck don't people exercise? We felt like it was plainly obvious to us. People have a job or two, and they've got families and just, social obligations. They have a lot of things going on. And the question we were asking was, where are there small subgroups of people among us who have figured this out for themselves, who have enacted some sort of solution to maintain high performance or healthy living for long periods of time? And what are those people doing? And to shortcut it, we spent lots of time with lots of different people, but what we found in these really disparate kind of tiny communities of professional athletes or, A-list celebrities and executives, high net worth people, were that they all enacted the same exact solution, which is they didn't try to manage their day-to-day health. Instead, they built a constellation of experts around them to help manage it for them. And we found in these tiny populations, it was really common to get a personal trainer who tells you exactly what to do so you don't have to think about it. And to get a chef who maybe stocks your fridge with 12 meals a week, or a lot of pro athletes have a sports psychologist who comes to them and helps them work through, the stresses and problems and challenges that they face. And we found this universality in trying to solve problems with ownership, with getting people in your boat and having them co-own your goals and then getting you there. And that became the thread. And ultimately what Future does today is we've designed Future to help the busiest of people maintain healthy lives. And we really focus on your fitness today. Future pairs you with a world-class coach. And that coach will basically do 3 things for you. Number 1, they build a new training plan for you every single Sunday, because no week is like the next, right? Based on what you did last week or didn't do last week, and your work schedule and all sorts of constraints. It used to be travel was a big one. Your coach will think about what you should be doing and actually go build a bespoke workout plan for you. The second thing we do is we send you an Apple Watch, every single member, so that your coach can actually see if you're doing it or not. And with great depth, they can see into your workouts and keep you accountable or give you analysis and build on what you are doing and, again, what you're not doing. And then the third thing is we put you in touch with your coach over text message. But this is not one of those passive things where, text me if you have questions. They're very actively involved in your life. They're typically the first person you hear from in the morning. They are giving you encouragement or that push you might need if when you're working out. And then after all of that, we actually make time in our coach's schedule to think about you outside of your fitness and to actually sort of build that bridge, build that connection over time.